Hey guys, this is Locke. In this video, I'm going to talk all about Radiant gear. This is about Radiant weapons and Radiant armors, how you should prioritize them, and also the two different ways to craft them. I'm going to start there first. I'm going to talk about the two different ways to craft them and then go into it. Um, so the first way of crafting these gears is, just crafting these gears normally. Get all the materials that you need, and as you're crafting them, you have a chance to make them into a Radiant piece. And you need a little bit of luck there, but I've been having quite most of my Radiant gears are actually coming from this. I've been able to craft a ton of them, and that's how I ended up making a lot of these. But there is a second way of making them as well. And for the second way, you basically need to get light crystals. uh, you basically, you need one Radiant weapon here and another one here, and then you need one light crystal to make an armor and two light crystals to make a weapon. And you actually get something like this, where you can select which weapon or armor you want, and this way you're guaranteed to actually get it. But the problem is that you need light crystals, and for players, I'm assuming most of the players that are watching this video don't actually have a steady supply of light crystals, so you have to actually prioritize what you're going to focus on. For me, I was able to get these pretty easily, the light crystals, because I got a lot of them from Arena, and I also got a lot of them from the Guild Wars as well. So for me, I didn't have a problem with this, and that's actually the reason why this video is quite late. I mean, you guys have been asking for this for a long time. So I'm going to preface this by saying that this is the strategy that I thought of, and I'm going to explain the reasons why I thought of it this way. But you might disagree with what I'm telling you, and if you do disagree, that's fine. I would actually like you to comment why you disagree with it, if you're okay with that. And there are two reasons why I would like to hear from you. The first is because I'm totally open to criticism. If you think that what I'm saying is wrong, if there's a better way, leave it in the comments, and I would like to read it and think about it. And you might have a better method for it, and that's fine. And the second reason is, if you disagree with what I'm saying and you leave it in the comments, hopefully the other people that are watching this video to come up with a prioritization schedule, if they disagree with me as well, or if they're able to read different points of view, maybe they can better understand which way they should go. So I'm going to explain how I think you should prioritize this, but feel free to disagree with me. I will give you my reasons and go into it from there. So I'm going to start by looking at this unit. So I have here a Radiant 5 weapon, and I have a non-Radiant 5 weapon as well. And so for me to give some advice on how you should prioritize, I really want to know what the difference between these are. Now obviously I can read the stats out to you, but I think more than the stats, you should really get a feel for what the benefit is, right? So to get an idea of the benefit, what I did was I used Cosette like this. I think I had like one armor. Sorry, I think I had something like this on her, and some ring as well. But like basically nothing that increased her attack. Not a ring. Okay, so something like this. I think I had on her. Yeah, something like this, and I took her to the the hard exploration, Forest of Ruin, and I basically set her off with Karen and timed it to see how long it would take for Cosette to kill two monsters, basically one stage, the succubus and then the scorpion. So I timed it to see how long it would take Cosette to kill, to kill it with the Radiant weapon, and also to kill it with the non-Radiant weapon, and what the difference was. So basically, she was able to kill both of them 12% faster with the Radiant weapon. And as you can see, I removed everything else, so she doesn't even have a high crit rate. I think her crit rate is only at like 36%. With this, it's 34%, and she also gets, a little bit more crit damage and so on and so on. But this is exactly what I used. I even used like a defensive pet. This is the exact setup that I use, and as you can see, even the formation doesn't really help her. And I did this because obviously I have a very high attack value coming in from the codex. So the value that you see now might be more similar to what most of the players are looking at. If I put everything on her, she might be at like maybe 13 or 14k attack, and I don't think I don't think most of the players are around there yet. So that's the reason why I purposely decreased her attack as much as I can. And anyway, so I found out, with this setup, that she was able to kill it 12% faster with a Radiant with a radiant weapon, and that's what I'm using as a baseline. And I think 12% is pretty significant. Like imagine killing bosses 12% faster. That's that's a lot. That might basically be the difference between doing T15 runs and not, right? I think that is quite significant. But there's also a huge cost to making this radiant T5 weapon. You basically need 12 light crystals, right? If you're going to craft it from scratch, if you haven't gotten lucky with any of the crafts, you need 12 of these because you need one base one and then 5 extra copies to get it from Transcend 0 to Transcend 5. And I think that's quite a cost because especially if you don't have a steady stream of light crystals coming in on a weekly basis or something, it's going to be a very long time for you to get that. So if you are not able to get light crystals in a timely manner, I actually don't suggest using it on your weapon. I instead suggest using it on your armor and your helm. And I'll tell you why. So let's take a look at this armor here. So as you can see, it's a Transcend 5 defense piece. And for me, when I didn't have a Radiant armor, I actually did not go to plus 20. There was like one piece that I went to plus 20, but I made a mistake in my opinion, and I'm like, I should have actually just left it at plus 10 because I don't have enough of the red and yellow stones to get everything I have up to plus 20. So most of the armors that are not radiant, I left them at plus 10, and only the radiant stuff I went to plus 20. So I would assume that most other players are also doing something similar, and by the time that you're able to actually, maybe get some kind of radiant gear, so start considering radiant gears, you probably have a Transcend 5, armor sets that look like this. And if I put this one, which is a Transcend 0 but plus 20 radiant piece on it, you can see that the defense goes up by quite a bit. And also note that the Transcend 5 already gives you 10% defense when it's non-radiant, and the radiant only gives me 7.5%, which means that even with the lower bonus, this radiant piece is giving me higher defense. Let's take a look again to see what the number is. So she has 2,788 defense, and that goes up to 3,045. So that's a difference of over 200 defense. And I will also point out that I also have 38 defense coming from an enchantment, whereas this one doesn't have anything. But even if I ignore that, right, that's still over 200 defense that she's getting just by equipping a Transcend 0 radiant armor. And for the helm, it's going to be even more because there is no difference. Like there will not be a minus 2.5% defense percentage coming in from the helm. So if you are low on light crystals, I think the first thing that you should craft is the helm and armor for your tank, because you only need 2 light crystals, and the defense boost for that is going to be huge, right? It's going to be like it's going to be a lot, basically. As you can see from here, just from this, it increased by 200 just for one piece, right? And the helm piece, I don't have one to make a comparison, but I think it'll be even more. So you can get quite a huge defense boost just from a Transcend 0 armor, and you can also get you can get a similar one for the helm as well. And so I would, in my opinion, that's what I would focus on first. Like I would make the that for the tank, and if you feel that your healer is dying a lot too, maybe it might be okay to even make one for the healer as well, for whatever set she's using. Maybe she's using a cooldown set like mine is, or she might be using I don't know. I would suggest cooldown most of the time, but maybe she might even be using something like the attack speed set. So maybe it's even okay to put that something like that, and you can maybe also use it in PvP sometimes too. So figure out what your healer's gonna wear, and then maybe you can use your first 4 light crystals on the helm and the armor for your tank and your healer. So that's what I would recommend, and this is the reason why I recommended it. So hopefully you can see the value of it, but if you don't, feel free again to tell me why and explain in the comments why you don't agree with that. But that's what I think. And what about the glove and the shoe? So the glove and the shoe, HP isn't as useful as defense. you do get quite a bit more, but it's not, so 3,878 HP compared to 6,818, so about 3,000 something HP more. It's most of the time it's not that great. So I mean, if you if you're having if you still have excess of light crystals, maybe you can think about the shoe and the glove, but I don't really recommend it. I think it's okay to leave it at Transcend 5 non-radiant for the glove and the shoe until you start like bathing in these light crystals and you're able to get a steady supply of them. Then the story changes. But for now, I wouldn't really waste even one light crystal on the shoe or the glove. And the glove is especially important because especially if you're into PvP, you really want to use a very high attack speed on your glove. Now let's take a look here. So as you can see, this item has an attack speed of 210 at Transcend 5 non-radiant. So if I make a Transcend 0 radiant weapon, it only gives me 78 attack speed, and that's a lot less. And attack speed is important in PvP because the faster attack speed you have, the more chance you have of landing a skill on your enemy before they land a skill on you. And oftentimes, if you're able to CC them first before they can CC you, that might be game right there, right? So that's why attack speed is really important. And so a Transcend 0 glove like this isn't really going to be very helpful for you. So you would much rather benefit from something like this, a Transcend 5 non-radiant glove. And so this should be the truth for for everything. So again, once you start bathing in light crystals, then you can think about the glove, because at that point you really want to make a Transcend 5 glove, right? So what about the weapons? When should you focus on weapons? So I think there should be a different strategy for weapons entirely. Like, don't look at light crystals. Instead, use all your materials to try to craft them. So as I mentioned before, there were two different ways of crafting these, right? Like, you can look at the craft them like this, or you can craft them with the where is it? With the light crystals. So all this time I've been talking about light crystals, like prioritize light crystals on your armor pieces, and your helm pieces. But when it comes to crafting, like like this kind of crafting, I think this is where you should focus on the weapons. So you hopefully start stockpiling a bunch of these mats, and you might actually have to craft a few of these before you're able to get lucky with some radiance. You might be really lucky and craft like 5 and get like 2 of these radiant weapons, which is great. But I think you should be spending your crafting materials for the crit and attack set on basically both of these things, and try to get as many radiants as you can, up to 6 obviously. And once you actually are successful in getting a few of these, like for example, suppose you've crafted 4 radiant weapons, which makes you a Transcend 3 radiant weapon, right? At that point, I think then you might actually consider using your light crystals to round this up to Transcend 5, because now you only need 4 more light crystals to take this weapon from Transcend 3 to Transcend 5, whereas before you need 12 to go from Transcend 0 to 5, right? And so that this is what I would recommend for people. I would recommend that using these materials, they're still limited, but you're probably going to be able to farm them faster than you can light crystals. So when you're farming them from your dailies or from your multiplayer dungeons and so on and so on, hopefully you start getting a stockpile of them. And also, the very first time you're doing these, you actually do get a ton of them from like this reward. There's a reward up here, completion box, and the first time you're doing it, like ever since I think like T10 or something, they start giving out a lot of those materials. So hopefully you can start crafting and make a bunch of these, and at some point, maybe it's like Transcend 2, Transcend 3, or even Transcend 4, depending on how fast you're getting these light crystals, maybe that's the time you should switch using your light crystals from armor to weapons, because then you can round it out and make it a Transcend 5 weapon. By the way, I have also seen some screenshots of some people having like 2 Transcend 0 radiant spears, and they've they've enhanced it to 20 and using it on 2 different characters. Don't do that. That is, in my opinion, a waste, because when it comes to weapons, like your weapon like this, you're still probably going to enhance it to 20, even if it's non-radiant, right? So it's a lot better to have a Transcend 5 non-radiant weapon that's enhanced to 20 than having a Transcend 0 radiant weapon, and especially on two different units, right? Like make that into a +1 at least and give it to somebody, and give somebody this one that is a Transcend 5 non-radiant weapon to someone else. Like that's better. So if you have, the same item that you've managed to make a few copies of, don't use them all. Like keep transcending it to actually get it to +5. It's better to focus and let one character be more stronger than spread it out. Especially, I mean, you can only bring 4 units at a time anyway, right? So what's the point of having 2 of these spears on 2 different units? Most of the time, you're only going to bring 1 DPS, 1 resistance character, 1 suppressor, and 1 healer. So you really don't have room to bring a second DPS. So what's that second spear going to do for you? It's not really like, there's going to be very limited times that you can actually use it. So you might as well just increase the value of the first one by transcending it, and not hoard it or give it to somebody else. So I hope this video makes sense. I mean, I've explained my reasoning. Obviously, what I'm telling you now is stuff that I've theorized. I didn't have this problem because I was able to get a steady supply of these light crystal, so I had to spend a lot of time thinking about, okay, well, how would somebody do this? And I also had to, come up with a comparison where I can look at the differences and say, okay, this is the cost it will take to get me this much. Is it worth it? Is it not? That's how I came up with the strategy, and hopefully I've explained my reasoning well. If you have other questions on something that didn't make sense, or maybe I didn't explain something properly, leave me a comment and I'll do my best to get back to you. And if you disagree with my strategy as well, leave a comment as well, because hopefully other people that read this can look at it and also decide for themselves if there's another way, another prioritization schedule. Maybe they can look at that and go with that. So anyway, these are my thoughts on Radiant Gears. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you guys next time. Take care now.